Pakistan's Prime Minister Imran Khan unveiled the country's first national security policy. Imran Khan spoke of waging a battle to bring rule of law in Pakistan. He took a dig at cartels in Pakistan. Though he did praise the country's army for ensuring Pakistan didn't become a radical Islamist terror hub like Somalia or Libya and Syria, he did talk about focusing on building a welfare state. But not a word on Kashmir. And this is being seen as a major. Skyrocketing prices and public anger against Imran Khan have compelled Pakistan's beleaguered Prime Minister to announce the country's first national security policy, focusing on domestic economy and not India. Unveiling the policy, Imran Khan claimed this was a consensus document with all stakeholders on board.
मोईद, मैं आपको और नेशनल सिक्योरिटी डिवीज़न को खराज तहसीन पेश करता हूं कि आपने बड़ी मेहनत करके एक कंसेंसस डॉक्यूमेंट डेवलप की, सारी कौम का कंसेंसस बना के एक कौम का आपने किबला दुरुस्त किया, डायरेक्शन दी है.
Pakistan claimed its army had prevented the country from descending into chaos like other Islamic nations, including Libya, Syria, Somalia and Afghanistan.
आपको सिर्फ मुसलमान दुनिया में देखना चाहिए कि किस तरह के उनकी तबाही हुई, जो वो सिक्योर नहीं कर सकी उनकी सिक्योरिटी फोर्सेस अपने मुल्क को. और आप ऊपर से शुरू, लिबिया से शुरू हो, सोमालिया, सीरिया, अफगानिस्तान. हम आज बड़े खुशकिस्मत हैं कि हमारे पास डिसिप्लिन्ड और वेल ट्रेन्ड सिक्योरिटी फोर्सेस थी जिन्होंने हमें सिक्योर किया.
Taking a not so subtle dig at the Pakistani armed forces, he said increased focus on security does not ensure safety of a country, and gave the example of the collapse of Soviet Union despite being a strong military state. Imran Khan tried to explain why Pakistan was constantly going either to the World Bank or international donors with a begging bowl to remain afloat. However, Pakistan's civil society and commentators mocked Imran Khan for his silence on Kashmir.
क्या कश्मीर का सौदा हो चुका है? आप दोस्ती कर रहे हैं, आप पीस कर रहे हैं, करें, लेकिन 75 सालों से जो इंजेक्ट किया हुआ है, आपने इंजेक्ट किया हुआ है सारे पाकिस्तानी कौम की नसों नसों में, कश्मीर पाकिस्तान की शहरा. फिर वजीर आजम साहब खुद फरमा चुके हैं कि मैं कश्मीरियों का सफीर हूं. इसका क्या बनेगा? तो आर्टिकल 73 खत्म हो गया, यूएई इन्वेस्टमेंट करने आ रहा है, वहां पे अरबों खरबों की इन्वेस्टमेंट हो रही है, जमीन शमीन उनके हाथ से निकल चुकी है, डोमिसाइल बेशुमार जो नॉन कश्मीरी हैं उनको मिल चुके हैं. तो सारी की सारी जो आएगी, इसका जो बोझ आएगा ना, वो इमरान खान पे आएगा.
Analysts asked if there was a secret deal forcing Pakistan to remain silent on Kashmir.
पाकिस्तान की फॉरेन पॉलिसी में ये कुछ शिफ्ट तो नहीं है कि पाकिस्तान जो है वो कश्मीर की बात नहीं कर रहा. अच्छा, रोमानिया में भी प्राइम मिनिस्टर शाह महमूद कुरैशी साहब जो हैं उन्होंने जाके बात की है, और रोमानिया में भी उन्होंने कोई इंडिया और कश्मीर का जिक्र नहीं किया. सो दिस इज इन अ वे दैट पाकिस्तान इज अंडरस्टैंडिंग. एक तरफ इमरान खान है, वो ट्वीट पे ट्वीट करते हैं, ट्वीट वॉर्स कर रहे हैं नरेंद्र मोदी के साथ, और उनको पता है कि नरेंद्र मोदी ने रिस्पॉन्स नहीं करना, मैं करता रहूं.
There was also a reality check for Imran Khan on Kashmir, with India rapidly developing both Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh, and virtually no development in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir, including northern areas.
भारत बहुत अच्छे से इस तरह से मैनेज कर रहा है कि वो अपने यहाँ के कश्मीर, जो उनके पास कश्मीर है फिलहाल, उसको वो इतना ज्यादा डेवलप कर रहे हैं कि लोगों के मुंह बंद हो जाएंगे, वहां पे टूरिज्म होनी शुरू हो जाएगी, लोग उनका साथ देंगे. और आप बताइए, जब यूएई और सऊदी अरब या दूसरी इस्लामिक कंट्रीज जो हैं ओआईसी की, अगर वो जाकर और वहाँ के कश्मीर में डेवलपमेंट का काम करेंगी, तो जब ये यूनाइटेड नेशन में जाके कुछ बोलेंगे तो इनको कौन सुनेगा? इनके तो वो एक देंगे चपेड़ कान के नीचे और कहेंगे निकलो इधर से.
Commentators also questioned Imran Khan's intentions on the proposed 100 years peace with India.
अगर आप वाकई इस पॉलिसी पे बिलीव करते हैं तो दो काम कीजिए. पहला, जितने खालिस्तानी भगोड़ों को आपने पाकिस्तान में पनाह दी हुई है, दाऊद इब्राहिम, लश्कर तैयबा, लश्कर जंगवी, हिजबुल तहरीर, हरकतुल मुजाहिदीन, सिपाही साहबा, हाफिज सईद, लुधियानवी, मसूद अजहर, इन सब को सबसे पहले तो पकड़ के उठाओ, अपने इनके महलात में जो रखें, और इनको भारत के हवाले करो. वरना तुम्हारी बात का किसी को कोई भरोसा ही नहीं है। हमें पता है ये जो इमरान खान जो कहता है वो गटर के नाले में जाके बहता है।
Pakistan's new national security policy is being mocked at even within Pakistan. India, of course, has repeatedly sought action against Hafiz Mohammad Saeed, Masood Azhar, and the dismantling of India-centric mil jihad infrastructure on Pakistani territory. Bureau Report, India Today. So what explains Imran Khan's climb down on Kashmir? What explains this talk of 100 years of peace and trade with India even before resolution of Kashmir? Joining me on India First is Lieutenant General Sanjay Kulkarni, former Director General Infantry, Ambassador Ashok Sajjanhar, former top diplomat and a keen Pakistan and China analyst, and of course from Pakistan, Qamar Cheema, a strategic and political analyst. And Qamar Cheema, I want to begin by asking you, what explains Imran Khan's silence on Kashmir, neither raised in Romania, as you pointed out in your report, nor when he unveiled the new national security policy, sir?
Well, I think there is some major strategic shift in Pakistan, and we have realized that we are moving from a geostrategic to geoeconomics, and many people are making or calling this a very positive move. But at the same time, Kashmir, which remained a central point of Pakistan's national security policy, it will remain the central point, but I think the rhetoric will stop. Earlier, the Prime Minister Imran Khan, whenever the politicians lose relevance in the society, they lose their political base, so they go back to old issues like discussing Kashmir and bashing India, normally, which is also done in India against Pakistan. So Imran Khan believes that the new national security policy, which primarily is being backed by the Pakistan's powerful military, that we should focus more on geoeconomics. We should focus on non-traditional security, which means economic security, food security, investing on people, reducing the population explosion, which we are seeing. So I think there is a shift in that we must not get into the old rhetoric. So we need to move forward. And this is what I think Shah Mahmood Qureshi's visit to Romania and Spain, where the larger focus was on getting out of the FATF, getting globally mainstreamed and asking for our recognition that what we have done in war against terrorism, but not a single word on India. So it means that there is a strategic move here, which is being seen from in the Foreign Office and in the Prime Minister Office.
Does that mean Imran Khan remains Kashmir ka Safir, as he calls himself, ambassador of Kashmir cause, or is he no longer, now is he a Safir only of money that Pakistan desperately needs? Ambassador Sajjanhar, many commentators in Pakistan have been talking about benefiting economically from India through trade, through having their actors come to India, get money from Bollywood, have exchanges and put a temporary freeze on Kashmir, like India-China trade. Despite this border standoff, in 2021, it was a staggering $125.6 billion. Is that what Pakistan is looking at? But is that even possible with Pakistan bleeding India for decades?
That will definitely have to stop, Gaurav. First of all, thank you for having me on your show. If Pakistan wants to take benefit of its relationship with India, like all our neighbors have done, we see how Bangladesh is prospering, how all the other nations, whether it's Sri Lanka, Maldives, barring Pakistan, all the other countries are prospering through their relations with India. So, as far as Pakistan is concerned, I think it is cutting its nose to spite its face, meaning it's because if it were to allow transit to Afghanistan and Central Asia, now to Afghanistan, it is not even allowing for humanitarian causes. We have seen Bangladesh has allowed transit through its territory to our northern eastern, and how basically it is Bangladesh that is benefiting from that. It is, whether it is export of gas, whether it is, loans, $8 billion, lines of credit, grants that have been provided by India to Bangladesh. Pakistan can also do that. Only it has to sort of, stop terrorism and stop taking Kashmir to the international community. It said that, Imran Khan, when he had come, he said that I will raise the issue of Kashmir, the whole world, as it has never been done earlier.
Yep.
He tried. After 370, he went to UN General Assembly.
No, the amount of breastfeeding they did, and he failed. He failed. He achieved sweet nothing. General Kulkarni,
Absolutely.
what explains this climb down? Is this a tactical retreat because of the state of penury, the state that Pakistan finds itself in?
Gaurav, good evening. You know, it reminds me of a saying which says, "Sau chue kha ke billi haj ko chali." You know, the question is, Pakistan has, the track record is bad. That is the first thing. Much that the Pakistanis want it that way, I think definitely peace will improve. If there is peace, 1% GDP rise is positively granted. That's the way the peace is, and that is the way the GDP and the poverty alleviation can be done. But notwithstanding, the track record has been bad. The Kashmir issue has remained core issue. Even the Boston-educated Moed Yusuf, the way he's been talking that should India want to ride us and be along with us, and Kashmir still remains the central issue. One point they're talking of economic security, human security, and not military, but the military runs and rules the roost in Pakistan, a vassal state, talking about the welfare state. You know, all these kinds of contradictions, which now, and if you're talking about 100 years, I would look at it, let them at least prove for 1 year. I would not even say 10 years. Let them prove for 1 year that Pakistan means sincerity, honesty, and commitment in the way they're talking about in their new security policy. But that doesn't. And as I look at it, terrorism continues to remain the key factor. One. Second, I personally feel the way the ceasefire was brought in with the view to interfere into Afghanistan and to make whole in Afghanistan. Similarly, Pakistan feels talk of peace with India, establish its foothold in Afghanistan, and then let terrorism emanate from Afghanistan into India, and then say, well, we aren't doing it. Afghanistan is an independent country, but ruled by the Haqqani network, ruled by the ISI. So as far as Pakistan has military ruling, I think God, extremely difficult, because until and unless Pakistan proves it, that it really means.
But Pakistan remains a hybrid state. Very interesting point that you make there. From a vassal state, it wants to become a welfare state without taking hard action. Kamar Chima, does Pakistan have a roadmap when it talks about 100 years of peace and trade with India? What is the roadmap? What are the steps to achieve it? What are the milestones? Because commentators in Pakistan are asking whether there is some kind of a secret deal. What kind of a secret deal would there have been between India and Pakistan in your appreciation?
Well, I think I do not find that there is some sort of a secret deal between India and Pakistan. But I think Pakistan will move away from South Asia or from SAARC. But Pakistan wants to give this impression to the international community as well, that we want to extend a hand of friendship to India. But if India doesn't want that, okay, let India remain in that position. But our direction will change even while engaging with the global powers. For example, when we go to the Europe or Central Asia or to the Middle Eastern countries or other, we only want that we should be looked from the lens of the geoeconomics, and we do not want to get into the rhetoric. So that is why when Shah Mahmood Qureshi was in Spain and Romania, he spoke more about economy. And I think this is where, and for example, Pakistan is engaging with Africa in 2019. Pakistan introduced Engaging Africa policy. We have opened 6 diplomatic stations in Africa.
Yes,
just
but where will you get the money to sustain them?
But the point is,
where will you get the money to sustain these diplomatic missions? Your army has now realized that after America has pulled out of Afghanistan, there is no money, there are no free dollars coming your way, sir. So how will you sustain? What do you export? Of course, apart from terror, I mean, that's your major export. But what do you export? And let me take that question to Ambassador Sajjanhar. Ambassador Sajjanhar, Pakistan Army Chief General Qamar Javed Bajwa was in the audience. Is the opposition on board this 100-year peace proposal with India? The devil lies in the detail. Is Pakistan giving up its claim on Kashmir, its so-called jugular vein? For 100 years of peace, Pakistan would need to close down that mil jihad complex, military jihad terrorist complex in Pakistan. Are they willing to do that? Ambassador Sajjanhar, India would want a roadmap.
No, absolutely. I think saying is very easy, making announcements is very easy. You would recall, Gaurav, that when Imran Khan had gone to the UN, he said, there are 40,000, 50,000 terrorists in my country, and the previous governments have taken no action against it, but I'm going to act against them. So, making announcements is very easy. What I would like to see is do they have the, the wherewithal to walk the talk? And that is where I think the big question comes in. If they are really willing to do something, let them provide access, let them provide transit to Afghanistan and to Asia. As I said, to Afghanistan, even for humanitarian purposes. Now Pakistan has been in such a triumphal mood that they have succeeded, they have been victorious against two superpowers in Afghanistan. But when there is this humanitarian catastrophe, it will not allow even humanitarian aid of medicines, of food, of wheat to go there.
Yes.
So, there is a huge gap between what it says and what it does. And we have heard it earlier also. So I will sort of, hold my, not hold my breath as to what they are going to do. First, I'll see what they are planning, because there are so many contradictions in this policy when it says that, we want geoeconomics, but first India has to take action on Kashmir, declare statehood, hold elections, and all those sort of things. So I'm not convinced.
So it's a stillborn move.
Inspired.
It's a stillborn move, Kamar Chima. I mean, why would India do that? Pakistan is virtually bankrupt. India's economy is growing. India's clout is growing. Pakistan's clout is shrinking. And your Prime Minister said that you have been talking about Pakistan's shrinking clout and isolation domestically. But explain this to our viewers. Does Pakistan have a roadmap? Or is this just an attempt to whitewash a terror state that it's there? Pakistan is not going the Somalia and Syria way.
Well, Gaurav, obviously there is a roadmap. If you just look at 20 years, where have we moved? We have just crossed this difficult pass when the hundreds and thousands of the terrorist organizations and the terrorists were operating in the lawless area of Pakistan, even in the settled area. And now you find that the law and order situation, the security situation is much better. The business community is having businesses freely. Karachi, which is known as the basic hub, is working perfectly. Things are normal. But the problem here is that there is some issues of bad governance of Prime Minister Imran Khan. For example, the Chinese investment which came, the Chinese are not happy. They are annoyed because of some reptapism, because of some issues. Otherwise, the country believes and the people believe that Imran Khan, which was brought in power to fix those who were corrupt, but he couldn't deliver as well. So there is a political crisis, I believe, because the leadership which people choose, that they are unable to deliver. But I believe the unelected institutions, they are making their major say in the entire apparatus, so that the people who have this trust on the government, who have a trust on the system, they can get the work done. So there is no big problem. One thing I would want to tell you, India will not give us opening. India will not come on table. But that is not at the end of the world. We will have so many more options to do. India's clout is increasing. India is engaging in Quad, in Indo-Pacific parts of the world, and globally recognized. And that is why the Kashmir is not being taken, is being not recognized globally. But that does not mean Pakistan's role is nowhere. Just few weeks ago, we hosted OIC here in Islamabad.
And nobody came there. You yourself in one of your... Sir, आप इंडियन टीवी पर कुछ बोलते हो, आप पाकिस्तान टीवी पर कुछ बोलते हो, and some of us watch you. तो आपने बताया था what a disaster your OIC meet was and what a success India's meet was, and I can play that for you. I can play that for you, but that's not the point. No. Sir, there is no comparison. Sir, India or Pakistan में there is no comparison, but that's not the point. You are saying China's investment. Sir, China thinks its $60 billion is a dead loss. $60 billion in CPEC is a dead loss. Balochistan is burning. Now they are looking at Karachi. They are very angry with you with the killing of those their 9 Chinese. They want some $36 million. You don't have that money. So, sir, aren't you going down a very bad road?
Well, I think the only thing which matters is that the government is trying to win over the Chinese, and that is why Prime Minister Imran Khan is going to China. And remember, back in 2018, when Imran Khan came in power, he went for a major review of the CPEC and the BRI, which actually stopped the work on the CPEC. And that's why the Chinese are annoyed. And their businessmen are taking a lot of time in actually bringing investment and producing things and exporting it. So the problem here is that Pakistan's internal problems are there.
Yes.
The world wants to trust us. The world wants to engage with us. But there is a serious governance crisis, there are accountability issues, and there is a National Accountability Bureau that strikes on the business community, that does not let even the bureaucrats work. So the internal structure, which is
and
to
corruption
reform,
within the National Accountability Bureau is not even looked at, and that
obviously
so,
there is a corruption.
Oh, there is. But General Kulkarni, when Pakistan talks about peace with India and saying let's put Kashmir on the back burner, let's do trade. Does this sound like another Pakistani terror trap, like the Lahore bus journey of Atal Bihari Vajpayee? India went with a clean heart, open mind, let there be a new dawn of peace. Exactly the same time Pakistan army was infiltrating into the Kargil heights. Is this another trap?
Absolutely. Gaurav, it's just not a trap. Pakistan can't be trusted. The country which vows for 1,000 cuts must at least be able to prove for 1,000 days that it is genuine and it means good, number one. Number two, the Pakistani army runs the business in Pakistan. $20 billion worth of business that it runs. It spends only about $8 billion on its army. The kind of businesses that are run over there, the kind of contradictions that are there, the radicalization of the society. Taliban was raised and brought up in Pakistan, is now governing Afghanistan. The Haqqani network over there. Pakistan cannot be trusted at all, because after all, Pakistan is, or China, when it is behaving and at the at the behest of China, Chinese would want India to get lulled into complacency by Pakistan talking of good relations, trade.
Yes.
India's most favored nation status to Pakistan in 1996. What did they do thereafter? Nothing. The own opposition
so Pakistan
is not on board.
wants to lull India. That clearly is not happening. Many thanks, Ambassador Sajjan Har, General Kulkarni and Kamar Cheema. Pakistan talking about improving ties with India with such an attitude just shows what a sham this entire effort is, trying to whitewash a terror state. A quick break. News and updates continue on India Today. Stay with us.